Hi there, my name is Tony Griffin. I'm with the Master's Program in Data Science at ODU, and my project is the Norfolk Incident Report. This project seeks to process and analyze incident reports recorded by the Norfolk Police Department and compare said reports across times and places to find trends and patterns. This dataset offers 5 years worth of incident reports from the Norfolk Police Department, updated daily. Each incident contains the offense type, date and hour of the offense, and day of the week. Some entries also provide the street address and neighborhood of the incident. This project uses data from the dates of September 23rd, 2022 to the same date in 2025. And so the plan for this project is to first begin by cleaning and wrangling the data. First, we're going to remove rows with no offense classifications, and then we're going to move on to categorizing the offense classifications for clarity. We're going to remove typos from the street names, and then we're going to find the coordinates for those streets for visualizations. And then with that data, we're then going to compare the offense classification frequency, compare year-to-year totals, and analyze the offense classifications with relation to location. This project is intended for prospective residents and visitors of Norfolk to gain a greater understanding of the safety of the areas, particularly on a street-level basis for deciding on residency and tourist locations. First, we're just going to take a quick look at our data set. We see we have our offense column right here. We have our streets right here, and we can already see some null values. These are going to be removed later on in our analysis. And we can also see the date of the occurrence, and then we also see the neighborhood classifications that we have. So we have over 100,000 different incidences that we're going to be analyzing in this project. And then, of course, doing our null check right away, we can see most importantly that the offense classification and the date of the occurrence, those do not have any null values that we'll need to worry about. And then we do see some in the street column, and those data points will be removed later on in this analysis. So first, let's start with a univariate analysis of the offense classifications. And we see first off that the most common one is going to be the hit and run on property, followed by larceny from auto. But right away, we sort of see a problem that we have with this data set. Just in the second place, we have larceny from auto, and then we also have larceny parts from auto, larceny all others, larceny from building. And if we include shoplifting and concealment, that is 5 different columns that are all pointing to the broad umbrella of larceny and theft. So if we need to group these incidences together. Now, how we're going to be doing that is we're going to be loosely following the Virginia's Incident Reporting Manual and the NIBRS offense codes for classification. Before we do that, we do see we have 149 different classification types for these offenses. And upon classifying them a little bit better, we're going to see we only are left with 24. So let's take a look back at these offense visualizations, and we see larceny and theft is far and away the most common incident that happens in Norfolk. And from there, we see a third of these incidences are stuff being stolen from within cars. Following larceny and theft, we have vehicle incidents as the number 2 most common, followed by simple assault. And then looking on a percentage basis, and we can see that Norfolk incidences, nearly 50% of them are caused from larceny and theft and vehicle incidents. Moving on to the addresses, we start first of all with with over 5,000 different address values that we have to start. And now a lot of this comes down to the different naming conventions that are going to be used. So first, we're going to have the extensions that are going to be named differently. We're going to try to unify those as much as we can. And then we also are just going to have typos, different typing that we're going to do. We're going to use a similarity comparison to set these. Upon doing those, we're going to be left with 1,366 different streets. And then we're going to move on to gather the longitude and latitude for all those streets where it is applicable and where we have values. And then after doing that, we're going to limit it to just locations in Norfolk, just in case our geocaching grabbed a different location. And so first, when we visualize these, we're going to take a look at streets that have at least 500 incidences. We actually see there's not too much of a grouping up. We see this is fairly spread out across the city of Norfolk. Then looking at the percentages of the most common streets that we have, we see Military Highway being the most common, followed by Little Creek Road, Tidewater Drive, Hunter, and Sea Avenue. Next, looking at how the offenses have changed over time, we're going to look on a weekly basis to start off, and we see a peak right away in 2022, particularly around the summertime. And ever since then, we've been in a notable decline in the number of incidences that have been filed through the Norfolk Police Department. And we can confirm this by looking at our year-to-year totals. There's a peak in 2022, and since then we have seen these numbers go down. And then looking, of course, at across the incident types, we see that there's a notable drop too. We see larceny and theft, the most common incidents. It spikes up to 2,228 incidences that were filed over a 3-month span. Now that number is just down to 1,166. But there is some cause for concern. We do see simple assault is actually on a slight rise, despite everything else falling. Now, looking at our multivariate analysis, we're going to take a look at how the incidences have changed over time and from place to place. So starting in 2021, we actually see the largest hub for incidences is actually around Tidewater Drive, which is interesting because if we fast forward to 2024, Tidewater Drive really has has a very small number of incident reports. In 2025, it is near non-existent here. Consistently, though, we do find that there are more incidences that are happening around this downtown Norfolk area, and this is just consistent throughout the years. So, in conclusion, this project examined how incident reports affect Norfolk and how they have changed over time. Over the past 5 years, Norfolk faced a rise in incident reports and is now in the midst of a fall of said reports. This analysis shows that while incidents such as larceny remain a problem area for Norfolk residents, commuters, and tourists, there have been notable signs of improvements over the past 2 years. To summarize specifically the findings, the most common incident in the city of Norfolk revolves around larceny, particularly around theft from cars. Larceny and theft and vehicle incidences are responsible for nearly 50% of all incident reports. Incident reports have come down approximately 20% between the peak in 2022 and 2024. However, simple assault reports are continuing to climb upward even as most other incidences continue to go down. Incident reports are spread around Norfolk City. However, there exist some areas with greater degree of incidences, particularly around downtown Norfolk and on Military Highway. Tidewater Drive in particular has seen a strong downward trend in incidences from 2022. Future work for this project could involve around clustering together the streets. The neighborhood column just did not have nearly enough data to do this. So finding a way to group these streets together geographically could really help to enhance this analysis, as well as looking beyond Norfolk and looking into other cities both in Virginia and in the nation to see how they are performing. Is Norfolk outperforming them or are we underperforming? I think that would also really help to enhance this analysis. Thank you.